Hey guys, hope you're having a great day. We're going to be talking about these two major storm systems: ice storm, heavy snow, record breaking cold, and more are tracking across the United States through the 19th of February. Right now, you see this swirling air mass here. This is our first winter storm. This is going to track to the northeast over the next couple of days, but there's a new one coming on shore, and that could also deliver a lot of snow and ice as well. You can see this area up here. This is actually snowpack. You see the clouds aren't moving. It's actually depicting snowpack at the surface. Here's your low pressure system. This northern extent is the snow. Thunderstorms blowing up in Alabama and Georgia. And your low pressure system is located over the eastern plains of Kansas and Oklahoma. So we're going to go over track, timing, location, and much more in this episode. But before I begin, I invite you to subscribe below if you like detailed educational weather forecasts, breakdowns just like this, and comment below. Are you in this path of any of these storms? So let's get right into it here. We're looking at the RGIM, the Regional Canadian Computer Model. This is right now, and you can see that it's picking up that storm system, the rain and thunderstorms to the south. This purple and red area, that's going to be sleet and freezing rain, and the blues are your snow. So there's some pretty moderate, heavy snow falling in parts of the Midwest, Indiana, down to maybe even southern Illinois and Missouri, and then sleet to the south of that. This is the 540 line. The rain to snow line isn't quite south enough, so there's going to be some mixing issues with this system. As we head towards Tuesday morning, this is at 1 a.m., the low moves pretty quickly to the northeast. A nice stripe of rain, and the moisture really gets going. The storm, I think, is really going to max out as it hits this area in the northeast around 1 a.m. on Tuesday. Just to the north of that warm front, you're seeing overrunning, so sleet and freezing rain, and to the north of that, a big batch of moderate to heavy snow, very widespread across that region. But you can see the 540 line is up here, the rain to snow line. So there's going to be mixing issues to the south of that, but there's very cold temperatures at the surface, shallow Arctic air mass at the surface there that will keep things frozen. We'll go over that in a second. As we head towards Tuesday around 9 a.m., you can see the low now hits the coast near Massachusetts area. And to the north of that, rain and snow for the northeastern United States. So a very heavy batch of sleet and snow. Freezing temperatures. We're talking record-breaking cold. These are the surface temperatures. That blue line is your 32-degree line. It's freezing in the Gulf. Okay, this is Tuesday morning around 6 a.m. You can see the core of the record-breaking Arctic air mass is centered over the northern plains, central plains, where temperatures could be 10 to 30 degrees below zero. There was actually 30 degrees below zero in Nebraska today, which is blowing off records off the rooftops in some areas. So really, really cold. Some areas out in the plains they're actually doing controlled blackouts because of the energy that's being used to heat homes and stuff. So it has been extremely cold in this area. Temperatures 15, 20, 30 below average. As you can see here, especially in the central plains for this time, warm out in the northeastern United States out ahead of that low. So this is Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. again. This is the thing we want to keep an eye on here. Look at the 850 millibar temperature. This is just off the deck, so it's a little bit higher up than the surface. This is the 0 degrees Celsius line, so that's the freezing line essentially, where you're going to get ice or snow to develop just above the surface. So you can see it's actually above freezing for much of the northeast, especially along the coast. But watch as we go towards the surface. The surface temperatures, 32 degrees, are actually farther south. So you got 850 millibar temperatures, which are freezing just above the surface in this area. Or actually, the 850 millibar temperatures are above freezing in this little zone right here, but the surface temperatures are below freezing. So that means there's going to be rain just above the surface, and when it hits the surface, it'll freeze. So that area, Tuesday morning, under the gun for some freezing rain. And if you look at the map here, you see just that. So sleet is also possible with this type of look as well. So you get a sleet and freezing rain band from southern Maine, Connecticut, all the way down to the southeast portions of New York. So there's going to be some mixing issues with that type of look. It's a little bit warm off the surface. You'll be thinking, well, it's freezing, but just off the surface is a little bit warm. But to the north, that deeper air mass, a good band of heavy to moderate snow out in that region. The other thing we have to look out for is a punch of dry air. You see the moisture is out here, but it's going to freezing rain and sleet for some time, but that dry air will quickly kick in. So that should shut off things pretty quickly. Your best bet for snow is going to come out ahead of the low pressure system, and that dry air will kick in. As you can see, this is Tuesday, again, 9 a.m. We saw that already. We're going to fast forward this now, Wednesday or Tuesday night at 7 p.m. You can see the low pressure system off the surface. There's your precipitation. That dry air is starting to work in, so that snow is lighter now. There's not a whole lot of wraparound because of that dry air, but a little bit of light snow on the backside could accumulate another 1 to 2, maybe 1 to 3 inches in the interior northeast into southeast Canada. But meanwhile, a second disturbance is developing here, Oklahoma and Texas. This system will develop just a little bit to the farther to the west or to the east than the previous system, but it's almost the exact same track. Same time, Tuesday night at 7 p.m., you can see that wraparound snow. Again, this won't be anything terribly strong, maybe an inch or two additional on the backside. You'll see a quick break with that dry air that kicks in, and then some moisture will wrap around and deliver another little batch of 1 to 2 inches Tuesday afternoon and evening. Here we are on Wednesday morning. This is at approximately 4 a.m., 3 a.m. or so. You can see a little batch of snow in Oklahoma, but you'll see again freezing rain and sleet in southeast Texas again. So almost the exact same type of storm system. You see temperatures around this time freezing all the way out into the Atlantic Ocean. The core of the cold air, the 0-degree temperatures in the purple in the northern plains, again 10, 20 degrees below zero Wednesday morning. So there's a significant ice threat for parts of Texas, Louisiana, maybe even Arkansas early on here on Wednesday afternoon, 7 p.m. or 1 p.m. or so. This is the 850 millibar temperatures again. So this is just off the surface. You can see the freezing line located right around there, southern Arkansas into about the Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama border and into central Texas. That's just off the surface. Now we'll look at surface temperatures and boom, you can see that it's colder just to the south of that line. So I'm going to draw that out right here. So that extends into Mississippi, parts of Alabama, and then Louisiana and southeast portions of Texas. If this storm tracks to the northeast, which it will, it puts all of those areas south of that magenta line under the gun for freezing rain and sleet because the surface temperatures are colder. The temperatures just above are warmer, so that is going to freeze at the surface. So it's a signature look of a freezing rain event. You can see that reflected here Wednesday at 1 p.m. Really significant freezing rain and sleet potential within eastern Texas, northern Louisiana, southeast Arkansas, parts of Mississippi. Just to the north, there'll be snow, but it's not quite getting going yet. Usually early on in these events, your freezing rain will be the biggest factor with this type of system, and then the snow will really get going later on when the freezing rain diminishes. This is Wednesday at around 10 p.m. You can see this moves to the coastline and delivers some freezing rain to parts of Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee, and then snow just to the north of there, but not terribly heavy yet. As we head towards Thursday morning at around 1 or 6 a.m. or so, the low is now centered over parts of Alabama and Georgia, and it is blowing up with sleet and freezing rain. The RGEM has been really consistent with this in North Carolina and Virginia, potentially major ice storm in that area, maybe West Virginia as well, maybe up to southern PA and parts of eastern Tennessee. This is a classic looking ice storm. The other models are a little bit less crazy on this. The RGEM sometimes overestimates the ice, the Canadian, but even then it's still looking like a classical ice storm. To the north of that, a light to moderate band of snow into the Midwest. And we're going to zoom in on this. This is the featured area here on Thursday morning at about 6 a.m. A very heavy band of sleet for parts of parts of Virginia here, and then extremely heavy freezing rain here in North Carolina, Southern Virginia. Some other models have been indicating this could happen just a little bit farther to the north. We'll have to watch that, but really, really heavy stuff. You'll notice the snow is a little bit lighter. The farther north you get from that warm front, the lighter the precipitation tends to get. So that's really cutting off the snowfall amounts within Virginia and North Carolina. You'll see what I'm talking about here. This is the same time period. This is the frontogenesis. So this is essentially a warm front really forming here in parts of Virginia and North Carolina. Essentially, you're getting cold air that's at the surface from that Arctic air mass, but warm air surging north from that low pressure system, and it goes right on top of that cold air mass. And because of that, it's warmer aloft, but it's still cold at the surface. The warm air rises over the cold air, and because of that, you get that freezing rain to freeze at the surface. So that is a signature look right along in north of that warm front to get freezing rain. This is the frontogenesis right here. We were looking at is warm air advection, and now we're looking at frontogenesis, and you can see that as well, right over Virginia, East Tennessee, North Carolina, and parts of West Virginia, and maybe even southern PA. Kind of right along this lift area, that is where the best bet for freezing rain is going to be. You can see some vertical velocity. This is measuring the lift, the speed of motion in the mid-levels, very high for this region. There could be some thunder sleet, maybe even some thunder freezing rain with this type of system. If you look at the 850s for this time, there's your freezing line just above the surface, and then you go down to the surface, and the freezing line is a lot farther to the south. So again, that's placing that area in Virginia and North Carolina under the gun for freezing rain. As we head towards Thursday afternoon around 4 p.m., you can see it becomes more of a sleet and snow threat now. Later on in these events, usually it'll transition from freezing rain to more of a snow threat for the entire system. But much of the northeastern United States getting wintry weather around this time. And then as we head towards Friday at 1 p.m., about a day later, this moves off the coast. And you can see that dry air getting kicked in. There's a little bit of wraparound, but it doesn't quite get southeast a whole lot here. But some light snow on the backside. You can see that dry air getting kicked in. This is the mid-level moisture. There it is. Boom, right there. So it's kind of splitting off that moisture from wrapping around. So the snow on the backside, you might get a second batch, but again, it's going to be very light snow, maybe an inch or two additional accumulations, as you can see reflected right here. This is Friday at 1 p.m. Your best lift is going to be towards Maine, maybe some wraparound snow, but again, light 1 to 2 inches on the backside, with that low and that dry slot located right there. So the system, once the low gets past you, that dry air really kicks in. So here's the snowfall amounts. We're looking at the actual amounts here. This is the RDPS, the axis of snow from about central Arkansas through southeast Missouri, southeast Illinois, Indiana, out into the Great Lakes, New York, and just to the north of Maine. That's where the heaviest snow is going to be painted between these two systems. We're talking 12 to 18 inches, some areas maybe even 20 inches in the northeast. The southern half of we're looking at a Kuchera ratio here. The southern half of this one might be a little bit overdone because we're looking at this a little bit overdone. I think there's going to be sleet and freezing rain issues on that southern half. However, if you look at the European computer model, the European's actually farther south with that axis of snow. Instead of hitting the Canada border, it's just south of the Canada border. We're looking at 10 to 1. I actually do not have access to the Kuchera ratio, so the 10 to 1 is definitely overdone on the southern extent of this. I think it's going to be more like a 5 to 8 to 1 snow ratios with that sleet and freezing rain mixed in. So you look at this line right here, and you take that. Really what you do is you go right around here, that southern half of that line, it's probably more like 75% of what this model shows. You can see about 6 to 10 inches. It'll probably be more like 4 inches, maybe 5, 6 inches in some areas. But to the north, that's where our heaviest snow is going to be 12 to 18 plus, maybe even 20 inches or more with these two systems. And then we'll look at the freezing rain, and you can see Texas all the way up to Maine, freezing rain. We zoom into Maine here, or parts of North Carolina here. You see some of this area could see as much as a ½ inch, maybe an inch of ice. There's a lot of uncertainty still in where this will set up, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some areas clock in at about a ½ inch. That's a terrible 5, but a ½ inch to maybe 0.75 inches. And again, some areas maybe even locally higher, closer to an inch. There's some ice storm warnings issued in that area. If you go out to Texas and parts of Louisiana, also the same story, maybe as much as a ½ inch to an inch of ice in those regions. Everywhere else in the pinkish area, probably a 1/4 inch, 1/10 to a 1/4 inch of ice. So extreme ice storm, anything over a ½ inch is really significant. And there is some indication that a few areas in Louisiana, Texas, and potentially Virginia and North Carolina, maybe even West Virginia, could see 0.75 to an inch of ice in some areas. So this is something we're going to have to watch, guys. Again, stay tuned for more updates. Pretty significant event, and 2 events right in a row over the same exact area. Share this with a friend. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you soon.